Hi guys, apologies for the shaky hand, but I cannot get this camera anywhere still, so I will do my best. So here are a few tips if you want to become a recording artist, okay? So first of all, know your music inside out. Know it inside out, because the producer will stop a track and then he'll go back a few beats and he'll say, right, take it from there. So to save you time and money and getting all flustered, know your music inside out, okay? So if he stops it somewhere, you know exactly where it is. Don't get ripped off. There are people who are producers, and then there are people who own a studio and press record. There's a big difference. So make sure you're not paying someone just to press record and paying them producers rates, okay? Don't get mugged off. Listen to tracks that you like and find out what it is about the production that you like, because you need to find a producer that suits your style of music. If you are doing a hip hop track, then the producer that spends all of his time doing classical music probably isn't going to be able to produce the track the way you want it. Now, there are some versatile people out there, don't get me wrong. There are some really versatile producers out there that would do the best for you and for your track. But a lot of the time I find that people have a certain bias. So if they've been producing rock music the whole time or hip hop music the whole time, they tend to produce everything that same way. So it's not always productive to go with just the producer that's local or the one that's cheaper. You have to find the one that suits your genre. What else? I've got some notes here, so. What else? Pay attention to what they do. Because when I was 16, I wrote my first track, Party Goin On, and I went up to London and I produced it up there with Xplosive Records. Now, I was only 16, but I remember watching what they were doing and learning from it, so that if there were anything that I particularly liked that they did, an effect that they did, the way they mixed things, then I would remember that, because it's helpful in the future if you want to kind of recreate that sort of sound. Equally, if they do things that you don't like, you can remember that as well. So yeah, from 16 I've done quite a few different productions, and I've worked with a load of different producers. Some do R&B, some did rock, pop, some did folk, some did musical theatre, some did dance. So you know, I've worked with a fair amount of producers and DJs, and I can tell you honestly, they all have their own unique sort of spin on things. So make sure that you're paying, if you are paying, you're paying for what you want to get. Obviously, if you're not paying, if you're working as a collaboration, then that's a bit different. You have to kind of take on board what they want. But if you're going to a studio and paying for it, you make sure you get what you want. What else? Yeah, so an example of this is Reverb. Now, I have a love-hate with Reverb. When I did some tracks with CJ Rocky, he's a DJ, he piled on the reverb. Now, don't get me wrong, this was amazing for the track, but I don't necessarily want reverb on my folk song, you see? So I loved the reverb when CJ Rocky did it because it was suited to his track, but I wouldn't want that same reverb on my folk song when I want the folk song to be more natural, like I'm in the same room as you, like a drier sort of folky, speaky sound, you know, that sort of thing. So there are differences in the way that they mix things. Think about your backing vocals, if you have backing vocals. I personally am a bit of a harmony junkie, and I love the choir sound, the big choral sound, and so I tend not to have my backing vocals sitting back, which is traditionally the way you mix them. I prefer my backing vocals to be more prominent and almost be like counter melodies to my main lead, but that's just me. But think about what it is that you want, what you hear in other tracks, what it is that you like about them, to see if you can sort of recreate it in the studio yourself. So you have an idea beforehand, before you even go in there, how prominent you want your backing vocals to be, or you know what I mean? So there are some differences like that you can sort of play around with. Panning. Now, the best way to listen to a track once you've recorded it is to come out of the booth, take your headphones off and sit in between, in the middle of the left and right speakers. Sit right in the middle, further back. and then you can hear the treble, the bass, and the balances between it all. And it's only then that you kind of get to hear, oh, the bass is too loud, I need to bring up the treble, I need to do this, that and the other. If you stay in the booth with your headphones on, you're not going to get a good reading of the track. And if you want to really play around with things, oh, what's gone on there? Sorry. If you really want to play around with things, you can actually make your voice seem like it's panning from left to right through the speakers, which is really cool. And if you check out Billie Eilish, she's actually come out with something which is 4D. So when you actually put your headphones on, she's created it so that it sounds like the music is going around your head, which is really cool. So have a play around with panning and different things that the producer can do. Even if we don't know as singers everything that they can do, because I'm not claiming to be a producer, I'm just a singer. But I know what I want from a producer, you see? You see what I'm saying? So don't just let someone press record and then that's done. Play around with it, okay? What else? What else? Backing tracks. Okay, backing tracks are not ideal because if you've created a track and you've got, say you've got 8 instruments plus a voice in a track, right? That is 9 different stems that you can mix individually. If you've got a backing track, that's 1 stem. So when you put your voice on top of it, all you've got are 2 stems to kind of mix together, which isn't ideal. It's much better to keep all the individual stems so that you can mix it, better, basically. However, if you are just doing this for a vocal showcase, like a vocal show reel, and you're not really interested in the track and you're just wanting to show off how well you can sing, then that's fine. A backing track will do that. That's not a problem at all. And what you'll probably want is the backing track to be at a certain level and for your voice to almost sit just on top of it, for your voice to be lifted slightly above the track. That's not how I would recommend doing a track if it was your song from scratch, that sort of thing. But if you are wanting to just showcase your voice, then I would suggest just having a backing track and just sitting your voice on top so that they can really hear what you're doing, because it's not really about the track as a whole, it's more about your voice. So, you know, that's absolutely fine. But remember, if you did want to remix it in the future, and if it was a track that you were writing from scratch, you'd want to keep all those individual stems, all those different instruments separate, so that you can remix it different ways and you can get so much more from the levels. What else? Perfect pitch. Now, I have perfect pitch, okay, I have a good ear. And you may think that you have perfect pitch. Guess what? You may still need auto-tune. It's not because you are hitting wrong notes or anything like that. It is purely because when you listen to pop songs, I mean, it depends on the genre you're recording, but if you are doing a pop song and you're used to listening to the radio and everything, these tracks on the radio and on the TV, they've been put through an auto-tune program, and because we are so used to hearing that perfection, when we just record a song raw and listen back to it, we think, is that how I sound? Because you're not used to hearing it raw. And so don't be offended if they put you through an auto-tune program. It's not because you're singing out of tune, it just puts like a polish on your voice, and it's really important if you want to make it in radio and as a recording artist, basically. That's the difference between recording a song in a studio and recording a live performance. That's the difference, okay? So don't be offended, because if you don't put it through auto-tune, chances are it'll sound a little bit naff, because we're just so used to hearing auto-tune. When you are singing live, nobody is going to remember the whole routine. Nobody is going to remember the whole song. They might remember the bum note that you failed to hit, or they might remember a piece of excellence, but they're not going to remember every single little bit, every slight what's the word I want? I can't think of the word, but where your dialect is all messed up. I can't think of the word I want, but they're not going to remember the bit where you breathed in the wrong place. They're not going to remember everything like that. But on a recording, people will pick up on every little thing, because you hear a track once, and then you hear it again, and then you hear it again, and somewhere in when you hear it again and again, you're going to hear a mistake or something that bugs you. And the problem with that is that once you know it's there, the next time you listen to the track, it's there again and again and again. Whereas in a live performance, you sing, you finish, they clap, it's over. There's nothing to annoy them again and again and again. So when you are recording a track, you've really got to make sure that there's nothing in there that irritates you. And so I suggest recording the track, getting it as perfect as possible in the studio, taking it back with you. Listen to it in the car, listen to it at home, listen to it until you're sick of the track. Because chances are you'll hear something, then you think, oh no, I want to change that. Then go back to the studio 3 days later and correct it, because that's what I do. I always record the track and think, okay, I feel like I'm happy with it in the studio. I take it home with me and I think, oh no, there's something that I need to be changing here, and I'll go back. So always, always, always make another appointment, as it were, with your producer, because chances are you'll want to go back and tidy something up. Also, in a recording, there is no visual, so you need to put more in. An example of this is when I recorded On My Own from Les Miserables. You can find it on my playlist on Rebecca Saxton, on the link at the bottom of this channel. But I also recorded it in my maiden name, that's Burge, B-U-R-G-E. If you Google or you put on YouTube Rebecca Saxton or Rebecca Burge, B-U-R-G-E, On My Own, Les Miserables, it'll come up. And if you listen to that track, you'll hear, especially in the beginning, that I'm putting in so much emphasis, so much more in my voice than I maybe would in a live performance. Because in a live performance, it's everything. It's your voice, but it's also all the visual as well. When you are recording a song, you haven't got that visual. And so when you're just listening to a voice, it's got to have more in there, because there's nothing else there except your voice. It's so exposed. So you have to put more in. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put a comment, like and subscribe. And yeah, if you've got a question, I'll try and get back to you. Cool. Thanks, guys.